Namaskar everyone and welcome to our Gita Satsang. Because of the festival and the Grahana actually, we were not able to connect on Tuesday. So let us get started with today's topic. Because I have put in 3 shlokas together for today. So it's going to be a little elaborate. So let us get started with that. Let us do the prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let us chant the shlokas. Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranatah Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namostu te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindaya Tapatra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Ramanujataya Patram Jnana Vairagyabhushanam Srimad-Venkatanathāryam Vande Vedanta-Deshikam Yo Nityamachyutapadambujayugma-rugma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmadguror-Bhagavatosya Dayaika-Sindhoho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye. So offering our prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us begin with our shloka for today. So the first shloka we will take up. Last time we had stopped at the 24th shloka. And now we are going to take up the 25th shloka first. Bheeshma Drona Pramukataha Sarvesham cha Mahīkshitam Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan Samavetan Kuruniti. In the presence of Bhishma, Dronacharya and all the other kings, Sri Krishna said, O Partha, behold these Kurus gathered here. So in this shloka, what we are seeing is, in the previous shlokas, we saw that Arjuna had ordered Krishna that take my chariot to the middle of the two armies. Krishna had brought and placed him there. And then now, where does Krishna put the chariot? He places the chariot in such a way that Arjuna is now standing directly in front of Bhishma and Dronacharya and all the other kings. And Krishna tells Partha that look at these Kurus who are all gathered here. So the thing to be noted in this shloka is that why Krishna places this chariot in such a position. There could be different reasons. The Acharyas explain that there could be different reasons why the chariot is put in front of these two particular personalities. Both of them are very important. We know Bhishma Acharya, he is the Pitamaha, he is the great, grandsire of for that whole kingdom. So both the Pandavas as well as the Kauravas have a lot of respect and affection for Bhishma. Dronacharya is the Acharya, he is the guru of both Pandavas and Kauravas. Now Krishna places his chariot in front of these two particular personalities. It could be because, firstly, they are both having very important role to play in the Yuddha. We know that they were like the commander-in-chief and they were conducting all the activities under their direction was going on. So overall also they are great warriors in their own right. They have a lot of strategies which can be very useful for the Kaurava side. So because they are going to have an important role to play in this Yuddha, right? So Krishna has positioned in front of these two people. The second idea is that this Bhishma and Drona, so far, whatever activities Duryodhana has been doing, although they have tried to advise him, but they have not actively put their foot down and told him to, stop behaving in that evil way. But now maybe Krishna is hoping that by bringing Arjuna in front of both of them, will they get motivated? Will they feel emotionally driven to do something to stop this Yuddha. Maybe that could be one of the reasons why Krishna positioned this chariot of Arjuna in front of Bhishma and Drona. Now, we know that even when the infamous episode of Draupadi's disrobing was happening in the Sabha, then Bhishma and Drona did not in any way try to put an end to the wrong actions which were going on there. No doubt they felt very bad and they were definitely sure it is against dharma, but they did not take decisive action at that point of time to stop that. So Krishna is wondering that now, at this point, even now it is possible. The Yuddha has not yet started. Everybody has only assembled in the Kurukshetra. Will they intervene now? Will they do something now to say that, okay, we will stop the Yuddha? That may be one of the reasons. Then the other reason which is told is, okay, the chariot was placed in front of Bhishma and Drona, and very significant that it was not placed in front of Duryodhana. So the Acharya say that maybe if Arjuna had to look at Duryodhana, if Krishna had taken the chariot and put it in front of Duryodhana, Dushasana, and all those people, then the only reaction from Arjuna would have been that of anger. And if Arjuna had got angry, then immediately he would have started fighting, isn't it? Then there would have been no opportunity for the Lord to give us the Bhagavad Gita. So it could be that in order to make sure that a particular kind of emotion rises in Arjuna, maybe Krishna placed the chariot there. Now we know always it is told that Krishna is called as, he does all these leelas, he does all this Maya, he knows everything that is going to happen, and he acts in particular ways in particular situations, and he engineers the situations in such a way that particular things happen. So it could be that if he had put the chariot in front of Duryodhana, Arjuna would have got angry. Then there is no question of Arjuna getting into confusion. There is no need for the Lord to advise him. And the world would have missed out on this nectar of the Bhagavad Gita. And maybe that Krishna wants, he knows what is coming, isn't it? He is the he's Sarvajnani. He knows what is going to happen next. He knows that Arjuna is going to get into some state of mind. And so to trigger that, he has purposely taken the Ratha and positioned in front of Bhishma and Drona. Because Arjuna did not specify where. He just said, Senayor Rubhayor Madhye Ratham Stapayam Achyuta. He said, put my Ratha, O Achyuta, put my Ratha in between the two armies. So here Krishna has chosen very strategically this particular position. That we need to remember and understand from this shloka. Now, why is it that Bhishma is mentioned before Dronacharya? It could be that we know Dronacharya was an expert in Dhanurvidya and he was the Acharya. But Bhishma is very well known as a great personality. He's an exemplary character, and it is told that the kind of self control, we know how Bhishma got this name Bhishma. He was called as Devavrata at first, and then he took that horrible, terrible vow of Jivan Brahmacharya, and because of that, he got this name as Bhishma. So he is such a great person that it is not easy to practice Brahmacharya like that, but he has done that. So not only he has controlled his senses, not only he has practiced celibacy, but also he is a great jnani. So because he is thus, he is superior to Drona, and therefore it is that in this shloka it says Bhishma Drona Pramukatah. So in front of Bhishma and Drona, that particular order, that Bhishma's name comes before that of Drona. These are some of the points which are told about this particular shloka. What is the message from this and the subsequent shlokas? We will see together what is there for us to learn. Now we are trying to understand what is happening. So Arjuna has told Krishna, take my chariot. Krishna has brought the chariot and he's put it in front of Bhishma and Drona. Now what happens? The next shloka. In the 26th shloka, now we are able to understand what Arjuna is seeing. Now his chariot has been placed in a particular position. What does he see there? तत्र पश्यास्तितान् पार्थः पितॄनत पितामहान् आचार्यान् मातुलान् भ्रातॄन् पुत्रान् पौत्रान् सखींस्तथा श्वशुरासुहृदश्चैव सेनयोरुभयोरपि. So there Arjuna could see in the middle of both the armies, both the sides. What did he see? Whom did he see there? All these relations of his he saw, and they are all mentioned in plural. He saw his fathers. Fathers means, of course, Pandu is not alive there, but people who were in the sthana, in the position of his father, he saw all those people. Grandfathers, Bhishma himself was there. Teachers, Dronacharya was there, Kripacharya was there. Matulan, his maternal uncles. We know about how Shalya came. Shalya was their uncle. He was the father of, he was the uncle of Nakula and Sahadeva, Madri's brother. And he was tricked into coming onto the side of Duryodhana. We'll come to that point a little later. But the fact remains that this mama of his, instead of being on Arjuna's side, he was on the opposite side. Then he saw his own brothers, cousins, sons, people. Like his cousins' children are considered like his sons. So he saw his sons, he saw his grandsons, he saw some people who were his friends, he saw his fathers in law, he saw well wishers, he saw everybody. Now, here in this shloka, it is not specified that he saw these people only on the other side. He is standing in the middle of both the armies and he is surveying who all is there on both the sides. So there are some of these people, some of these relations who are there on his own side, and there are some relations who are there on the opposite side, on the enemy's side. Now, here in this shloka, what we need to remember is all these relations who are mentioned. So there were many of them. There were many people who were in his father's sthana. There were many friends whom he had. So all this indicates that these people were there on both the sides, and Arjuna looked at all of them standing there. Now, it also shows to us the nature of Arjuna, that he is actually a very kind hearted and a loving person, a very affectionate person who has good relations with everyone in general, right? So he sees all these people. Now, when Arjuna sees this, he did not expect, he didn't anticipate that, oh, all these particular people will be there on the opposite side. He may have known people who were going to be on his side, because on the Pandava side, who is going to be fighting, he would have had complete information. But then there would have been many other people, and he would not have known what is the kind of loyalty they have, whom they are going to support. They may not have expected that. And so many of those people would be are present on the side of the Kauravas. So he did not anticipate, and it is quite a shock to Arjuna now to see that, oh, all these people have also turned out in support of Duryodhana. Now, again, we need to remember here that when we talked in the beginning itself about the two armies, the Pandava army is very small compared to the Kaurava army. Now, the Kaurava army is very larger in number, and also there are many great Maharathis and all who have stood on the side of Duryodhana. Now, in this shloka, we also realize that they're all these relations of Arjuna, they are just generalized, isn't it? The names of particular people are not mentioned here. It just says grandfathers were there, teachers were there, uncles were there, brothers were there, like that. So, who were these people in particular? That is not important, because whatever it may be, these relations that Arjuna has, whether somebody is a friend, whether somebody is an enemy, they may keep on changing. Somebody may be a friend at one point of time, they may become an enemy later on. Somebody may be an enemy at one point of time, they may become friendly at a later point of time. So that just goes to show that all these people, the relations were there, that is important, but not who they were, what was their name, that is not important. And we also need to focus on this fact that none of these relations in our life are ever reliable. No one can be trusted to be the same always and throughout, isn't it? Like here, the example is given, the Acharya explain about people like Shalya. Now, we know Shalya was the king of Madri Desha, and he was the brother of Madri. Madri was the second wife of Pandu. So, she gave birth to Nakula and Sahadeva. So, Shalya was her brother. So, he is the mama for the Pandavas. And when that it was decided that Yuddha is going to be taking place, he had full intention of supporting the Pandavas. And he was traveling to come towards the Pandavas. Now, Duryodhana was very smart. He was very sly and he was a very great strategist. we talked one day, that he was very good at Rajniti. So he wanted very much. This Shalya was an expert in fighting with the spear, and also he was an expert as a charioteer. So he had a lot of capability. So Duryodhana wanted that the Shalya should be on his side, and he was trying to emotionally weaken the Pandavas by showing them that, see, your own mama is not supporting you. So what Duryodhana did is, all along the way that this Shalya was traveling with his army, from that from their starting point till they reached Hastinapura, at different points of time, he had put up some camp like things. There were a lot of tents, there was a lot of food which was provided to all the people, all the soldiers. There was enough facilities provided for them to take a rest. They were given all the comforts. So the Shalya was very happy with all this arrangement, and he assumed that all these arrangements were made by Yudhishthira. He did not realize that it was made by Duryodhana. So he took benefit of all those facilities which were provided. They enjoyed all those, things which were given to them. And finally, he says, I want to meet the person who has arranged all this. And he is brought in front of Duryodhana. So it is a shock for him. Now, after he has enjoyed the hospitality of Duryodhana, he cannot just neglect Duryodhana or ignore him and go away. So he is very happy. Anyway, he is happy with whatever treatment they have received. So he tells Duryodhana that, okay, you ask whatever you want, I will give you that boon. And very cleverly, Duryodhana says that, I want you to fight on our side. I want you to be the charioteer for us if required, because you are an expert. And that is quite a, insulting position for Shalya, because he is a Raja. But then he agrees because he has promised that, whatever you ask, I will give. So here we can see in this example, why we are telling this example of Shalya. He was actually the mama of Arjuna, and yet the situation became such that he was forced to be on the side of the enemy. So this shows us that we cannot always predict, we cannot rely on somebody saying that they are definitely going to stand by us. There may be some situations where the condition becomes such that that person is forced to go on the other side. The other example given is that of somebody called Kritavarma. This Kritavarma was one of the, what you say, people. He was among the Yadavas. And he was one of the Yadavas. And he was always with Krishna and with the other Yadavas. Now, you remember that story we have discussed about how Krishna, before the war, both Duryodhana and Arjuna went there to ask for help. And Krishna said, on one side, I will be there unarmed and I will not fight, and on the other side there will be my Narayani Sena, which is very highly capable. So when Duryodhana picked the Narayani Sena and Arjuna picked only Krishna, then whoever was in that Narayani Sena had to go and fight on the side of Duryodhana. So this Kritavarma, he was a Yadava. He was a very close coordinate of Krishna. And yet, because he was a part of the Narayani Sena, he had to go and fight on the side of Duryodhana. Now, at that time, even the person called Satyaki, he was also part of the Narayani Sena, but he gave up that and he said, I am never going to be on a side where Krishna is not there. And he came over to the Pandava side. But Kritavarma stood by what he saw as his dharma, and he continued to fight on the side of the Kauravas. In fact, he was the one who also instigated and helped Ashwatthama when he went to kill the Pandavas. So, these examples of Shalya, of Kritavarma, they show us that in this world, the concept, the people can keep changing. We can't be sure who is the friend, who is the enemy, and based on their situation, people will change their stand also. Now, what is it that we have to learn from this? We will come to that. Before that, we will also go to the next shloka because it's like a continuation of that. It is just telling us that what happens when Arjuna saw all these people assembled there, what did he do then next? Okay, so tan samikshya sa kaunteya sarvan bandhunavasthitan kripaya paraya vishto vishidan abravit. So when he saw all these different kinds of people, all his friends, all his relatives, he saw all of them on both sides. What happened to Arjuna? He was overwhelmed. He was overcome with compassion. And in that state of, you know, feeling pity, feeling sad, with that kind of an overwhelmed feeling, He spoke thus. He said these words. And what he said will come in the next shloka. So we will take up that shloka next time. But here, what we need to understand is that now, from all these three shlokas that we have seen for today, what is the message for us? So, here in this particular shloka, when Arjuna sees all these people, he feels, softened. So, he sees all of them together, he feels disheartened. Somewhere in his mind, this thing that, oh, all these people we have assembled to fight, they are all my own relatives. That kind of feeling, that sadness overtakes him. And he starts to feel the emotion which is totally, a big problem for a kshatriya. A kshatriya should feel anger. He should be in that rajasic mode where he feels restless and angry and he wants to fight to set right the injustice. But now what has happened? His That quality of the kshatriya has taken a back seat because his emotion has overtaken. He starts feeling sad looking at all these people and he starts to think, am I going to fight against all these people? They are all my own people, isn't it? So when you just think of somebody as the enemy, then you are just thinking in an impersonal way. But when you actually see the person, and that person is somebody related to you, that person is somebody with whom you have so many memories, that person is someone with whom you have such a great bonding, and then you have to fight against them. It is natural that because he is a soft-hearted person, because he is a compassionate person, he starts feeling bad about this. And what he is going to do next, we will come to in the next shloka. But from all these shlokas put together for today, what are the messages for us? What is it that we have to ponder upon? We have to think about who is the true relation for us. Which relationship is the only permanent one? We have so many relations, isn't it? We have our parents, we have our siblings, we have our spouses, we have our children, everybody around us. Then we have our friends, we have our extended family. And invariably, we think this person is mine, and we are attached to many of them. And yet, we need to remember, are they going to be permanent in our life? Are we permanent in their life? Is the emotion always going to stay the same? Many times we find out of our experience that it is the people whom we love the most. They are the ones who will also hurt us the most. Now, what do we mean by saying that the people we love are the ones who hurt us? It is not about whether they are hurting or not hurting. It is that our mind feels greatly hurt because we have invested a lot of attachment in that relationship. The people about whom we are emotionally very attached, those people, when they do something that hurt, we feel it, we experience it in a very deep way. So we need to try and understand who is the permanent relation for us, who is the one who will always stand by our side unfailingly. I think we know the answer to that. It can only be God, and that is exemplified through this prasanga in the Ramayana. Now we know how Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita, all three of them left for Vanavas. And the mantri of Dasharath Raja, Sumantra, he came along with them up to some point where they met Guha. Then they had to cross the Ganga and go ahead further, isn't it? So at that point of time, Rama instructs Sumantra that you please go back now, go back to Dasharatha and tell him that we have set out on our journey and he's going to be heartbroken. So you please console him and take care of him like that. So at that point of time, when Sumantra is about to leave, he asks all these three people that please tell me what is your message that you want me to convey to Dasharatha. So at that point of time, the Acharyas tell that Rama, he said, I have nothing to tell to my father. He is going to be very heartbroken. You please take care of him. And you reassure him that very soon I will finish these 14 years and I will come back and then everything will be fine. So give him the courage and let him continue to do his duty without being too much, in grief about parting from me. That is what Rama says. Then Sumantra asks Sita, but poor thing, she has no words. She has nothing to say because she's caught in this unique kind of a situation. She doesn't even probably realize what is the magnitude of what is happening to her. She has just decided she will go with her husband and she has set out. Now, when Sumantra asked Lakshmana that what is the message you want to give to your father, Dasharatha, Lakshmana tells him, he says, your question is wrong, he says. So Sumantra says, why is my question wrong? He says, no, you should ask what message do you want me to give the Raja Dasharatha and not my father Dasharatha? So Sumantra says, okay, fine, you answer like that only, thinking that what message you want to give to your father Dasharatha. So Lakshmana very, angrily tells, he says, you can tell Dasharatha that I no longer consider him my father. He is not a father to me. Now, I consider Rama as my father and Sita as my mother. And I am going to the forest with that spirit. Now, Sumantra comes back. It's a very harsh message, isn't it? It is very difficult for a parent to hear these kind of words from their child. So Sumantra comes back and he is wondering what is going to be Dasharatha's reaction. When Dasharatha hears what Sumantra says, Sumantra tells him the message of Rama. Then he says, but Lakshmana had another kind of message to give. So Dasharatha eagerly asks. And then when Sumantra relays this message, Dasharatha is very happy. He says, you know, Sumantra, more than Rama, I am proud that Lakshmana is my son. Now, why did Dasharatha say this? Why was he not hurt by the words of Lakshmana? Because he realized that Lakshmana's spirit of thinking that Rama is everything for him is the right spirit. So he was able to distinguish at that point of time. He was not caught in his emotion as a father, but he saw the great attachment which Lakshmana had to Rama, and he could see that that was the right spirit in which to have relations. So, from this example that what Lakshmana told, we must also understand that in this world we have mother, we have father, we have children, we have a husband, we have a wife, whatever it may be. The only permanent relation is with the Lord. He is the one who has been with us throughout all the janmas that we have taken. And he has been waiting and waiting and waiting patiently for us to turn towards him. And whatever comes in our life, he is always going to be there for us. So when we understand that it is the Lord who is the only permanent relation, then what will happen? It will change our viewpoint, our way of interaction with people in our life. We will stop, or we will, gradually be able to reduce the intensity of hurt that we feel when people do something unpleasant to us. We will be able to accept whatever is happening in our life with more tolerance when we have this kind of an attitude. When we realize that God is the only permanent relation, He is our only ever well wishing relative. So, with that in our mind, how must we interact with our other worldly relations? It is told we must be like Padma Patra Imam Basa, water on the lotus leaf. We have all seen the lotus leaf. It is the lotus plant is growing in the water. It comes out of the mud, out of the slush and the water. And yet, if there is water which falls on the lotus leaf, it doesn't stick to that leaf. Scientists have done some great discovery and all that, and they have found that there is some material which is secreted by those leaves, which makes that surface hydrophobic. It will no longer hold on to the water and things like that. But the property of that lotus leaf, that is what we have to cultivate. Like the water does not remain on the lotus leaf and just flows down and disappears. So also whatever people say to us, whatever people do to us, whatever um, things happen in our life, we must be unaffected by those. We must not let them penetrate into our mind and agitate us. Now, at this point of time in the Mahabharata, when both armies have come together and Arjuna is looking at all of them, is he behaving like water on the lotus leaf? No. He is very much affected by what is happening. Now, because Arjuna did not yet have this attitude, that is the reason why he got agitated. Now, that agitation of Arjuna is very good for us because now, because of his agitation, Krishna is going to advise him. And that is going to be golden advice for all of us. So, whenever we go through such situations like Arjuna, we must remember this example and we must understand that if we let our emotions guide our actions, then we are going to be in big trouble because the emotion is going to take us here and there. Our thoughts, our feelings will pull us in all directions. But if we rely on our intellect, on our buddhi, to some extent, we can take the correct action. Our buddhi will tell us that this is right, this is wrong. Buddhi has the power of viveka, of discrimination between what is right and what is wrong. So our viveka will tell us. And yet, even if viveka tells us sometimes, we find that we are not able to follow what our intellect is telling. And that is because we are getting dragged by our emotions. So learning to master our emotion, that is what is going to play a key role in helping us take the right decisions and acting in the right way. So to be able to cultivate this attitude, it is no doubt very difficult. It is very easy for somebody to tell, but it is very difficult to adopt. But the only way to do that is to continuously keep reminding ourselves that what is real in my life? What am I getting worried about? What am I getting so agitated about? That we need to remember. Let us remember the example of Lakshmana, how he took Rama as everything for him, and his only idea was to do seva to Rama. So, also, we must remember that the central role in our life, the central position in our life is that of God. And whatever we are doing, we should be able to do for the pleasure of that God. When we do that, then we will slowly be able to develop this attitude of not being affected by what our relations do to us or how our friends behave with us. In the Bhaja Govindam, there is a very deep shloka which says, in this, Adi Shankaracharya is asking this question. He says, Kate Kanta, Kaste Putraha, Samsaroyamativa Vichitraha, Kasyatvam, Kuta Ayataha, Tatvam Chintaya Tadiha Bhrataha. So he's saying, oh brother, he's talking to that to one person. And he says, think of all these things. Who is your wife? Who is your son? And this samsara, this cycle of birth and death, how vichitra it is, how wonderful it is. It is keeping on pulling us deeper and deeper into it. Where have you come from? Who are you made up of? Think over all these things. And by thinking of all these things, we will be able to get out of that cycle of birth and death. So, understanding that the Lord is our only true relation, understanding that our attachment should be to God, that will be able to pull us out of the cycle of birth and death in which we are relentlessly, unendingly going on, life after life after life, we are going on, getting just caught up and stuck up in this. So, if we want to develop the spirit like the water on the lotus leaf, then we must keep reminding ourselves that what is this that I'm getting agitated about? Why am I getting so worked up over this? Is it really important for me? Is this what is permanent in my life? When we think of all these things, when we have the goal that this is how my thought process should be, then we will be able to cultivate that spirit. In another place, also in the Bhaja Govindam, Adi Shankaracharya has told, Kate Kanta Dhanagata Chinta Vatula Kim Tava Nasti Niyanta Trijagati Sajjana Sangati Reka Bhavati Bhavarnava Tarane Nauka. In that shloka, he says, who is your wife? Why you are worried about wife? Why you are worried about dhana? This mind of yours, why is it so much carried away like a whirlwind with the emotions which are coming? What you need to think, how will you get out of this samsara sagara? You need a boat. And what is that boat which is going to take you? It is sajjana sangha. So by being in satsanga, by being in the company of sadhakas, by being in the company of people who understand that sadhana is the most important thing in their life, by being in such company, you can hope to cross this samsara sagara. So these are the things which are explained, and this is the emotion that we have built up to. So in today's shlokas, in the previous satsang, we had seen how why Arjuna, you remember now, I told that Arjuna is called Gudakesha. He has all those great qualities. And why we are told that at that point of time, so that we should not equate him with ourselves and make it appear as if he is, not really something great. So now the confusion is coming. And in preparation for that, he was called as Gudakesha at that time. Now he comes, he sees Krishna places the chariot in front of Bheeshma and Drona. He sees them, right? So he is immediately overwhelmed with a feeling of affection for Bhishma. with a lot of respect for Dronacharya, and he's starting to think that these are my own people. Will I be able to fight against them? Why should I fight against them? He sees all these relations of his on both sides, and he begins to think, what is the purpose of this war? What am I going to achieve by all this? And seeing all these people, he's overcome with compassion. And in that disheartened condition, he's going to start speaking now. So, from this position, from this situation of Arjuna, we also have to learn that many times in our life also, things happen against our expectation. We were expecting somebody to support us and they don't. We wanted someone to help us, but they don't help us. And not only that, they may even, people say, stab us in the back, or they take advantage of us. In all these situations, we must remember that we are like Arjuna at the beginning of the Yuddha. So now we are understanding what is real, what is not real. So we must use such situations as an opportunity to understand that what is the true relation in our life, who is the person who is unfailingly there for us at all times. That is only God. And like Lakshmana stood by Rama with only the desire to serve the Lord, like that we must, through whatever situations come in our life, we must remember that our aim is to do sadhana, our aim is to go closer to God, and our aim is to reach him finally, so that that is the kind of unending joy and happiness that we will enjoy. So, with all these in our mind, we will try and see how much of this we can adopt in our life. And of course, we need the Lord's blessings for that. So, we will pray that let the God bless us. He has given us this satsanga. He is giving us the insight to understand these things. Let Him also give us the strength to be able to practice this in our life wherever it is applicable. So let us now offer Kritagnyata. As I said before at the beginning, we have covered a lot of things today. So there is no time, we have run out of time. So let us offer Kritagnyata and we will stop for today. So let us offer gratitude at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start and to join this satsang. And let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Thank you everybody for attending the satsang today, and we will continue next. I think next Tuesday I am not going to be in town. There is a trip to our Kuladevata temple which has been planned. So in that case, we will have it either on again Wednesday or Thursday. I will inform you accordingly as per what it is. Thank you very much. Thank you, Zarnaji. Thank you everybody. Namaskar.
Swajit.
Namaste.